Hey everybody, it's 9 o'clock and 9 o'clock is with me, Father Warner. We are in Saturday of the fourth week of Easter. We are at the end of another week. Our text is taken from John chapter 14, verse 7 to 14. But if you'd like an explanation on Acts chapter 13, verse 44 to 52, which is the first reading of today, just go to the description box of this video and you'll find the links. And I've entitled today's teaching, I Will Do It. Yeah? Nike says, just do it. Jesus says, I will do it. So let's read the text, verse 7 to 14 of chapter 14. If you know me, you will know my Father also. From now on, you do know him, and you have seen him. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. Jesus said to him, have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak of my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, but if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If in my name you ask me for anything, I will do it. Now, there is incredulity and extreme clarity scattered over 7 verses. You know, Jesus has just answered Thomas's question and then declared that no one comes to the Father except through him, and that knowing Jesus, one knows the Father. Now, clearly Philip is not satisfied. He seems to, in a way, reflect that never-ending, insatiable world of doubt in the face of one more act of love from God, or one more clarification that God gives. He's not satisfied with the words and promises of Jesus. And like Thomas, he wants to touch and feel and see and analyze. Show us the Father, he says. Now, it would be good to recall that the apostles are still sitting at the table of the Lord's Supper. He has washed their feet and has begun a very private, a very intimate teaching with them. He has taught so far in the Gospel of John in public, but now he teaches privately. From chapter 13 onwards, he's teaching them privately. The Lord has been with the apostles for 3 years, and then one can just about understand the frustration when he says to Philip, have I been with you all this time of 3 years and you still do not know me? Yeah, I wonder what he's going to say about you and me. Have I known you for 53 years and you still don't know me? Now, it's always difficult, and I say this not from merely a religious point of view, but just even for our mental health point of view. You know, it's always difficult when you have to explain yourself repeatedly to others, especially those who are closest to you. You would in some way assume that, you know, your life and my life, our lives, our actions, our needs should have already formed a thought pattern in the heart and the head of those around us. And yet, so often we are misunderstood and misjudged. And here's the irony: misunderstood and misjudged by the people who live with us, the people who love us, the people who surround us. So here were his closest friends who want proof. Show us the Father. Think about it. If the doubts and the barbs of the Jewish establishment, the religious establishment, were not hurtful enough, here was one in the inner circle who wanted to be satisfied. Satisfy us. Now, how can you say such things? And that seems to be Jesus' response. How can you say such things? You know, Jesus says to have seen me is to have seen the Father. This is his response. He says, the Father and I are one, for the Father is in me. So Jesus has to explain once again his unity with and his dependence on the Father. Jesus explained why he was the only way to God. Remember, we did this in the text of Friday, or of Friday, yes, where Jesus clearly said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He was the only way to God because he was and is the perfect representation of God. To know Jesus is to know God. Now, Jesus repeated something emphasized in the Gospel of John. He repeated it. What was it? That Jesus lived and spoke in constant dependence upon God the Father, and he did nothing outside the authority and his guidance. How fantastic! How fantastic is that? He constantly worked under the wish and the will of God. Now, if you look at your Bibles, in verse 11, Jesus tells Philip and the apostles, he says, believe me. I like that. Believe me. Believe me that I am in the Father. Jesus calls upon Philip and the others to believe him, not only or just to believe in him. And this seems to be a more personal appeal that he seems to make. Believe me. That's how we would speak to people we love. Believe me, that's how we would speak. So faith includes a recognition and acceptance in the words of God for what Jesus says is true. This, I think, for the believer, cannot be a matter of just a theory. We have to accept what Jesus says in faith. This personal appeal to believe him is also followed with a promise, and it is backed with Jesus' assurance. We who believe him will share, we are told in his ministry, we will do the same works that he has done. In fact, he says, you will do greater works. We just have to ask and Jesus will do it. John chapter 14 verse 13. These great works that we are to do, and this is the word of caution that Jesus gives us, these great works that we are to do is not for our glorification. It is for the Father's glorification through Jesus. But all we have to do, as John chapter 14 verse 14 says, you need to ask in his name. My dear friends, each one of us has the power to work these greater works that Jesus speaks of. However, in order to do these greater works, it demands faith in Jesus. So this is how I want to end today's teaching. Put your trust in his word. Put your trust in his word. And even more, cling on to the promises of Jesus in John chapter 13, 14, 15, promises after promises. And as I always say, Jesus always keeps his promise. Today I want to remember my dear friend, Father Roland Fiallo. It's his death anniversary. Many of you will remember him. I was thinking the other day, who would I consider a holy man, a holy priest in the Archdiocese of Bombay? And I was thinking, I'm sure there are. But the one that I really thought of was one who's no longer with us. Roland was God's good man, and I know he shines upon us. Today is also the wedding anniversary of my dear friends Ravi and Snowy. I think I've spoken about Ravi before, but he is no longer a young man. I think his daughter's in the 12th standard, and Ravi was one of the first youth I met as a young priest, a newly ordained priest, when I went to St. Michael's. I want to tell you a little incident, and I'm sure I'm going to embarrass him. Ravi and Snowy, along with their children, were well settled in Dubai, doing well, relatively well. And then his dad, he's the only son, was sick. He needed Ravi, and his mum couldn't handle it all alone. And Ravi and Snowy and the children left everything, came back to India to start all over again, just to look after his father. And for me, that is a beautiful witness, absolutely beautiful witness. So it's not to make some son feel guilty that he's not come down, but to encourage you, perhaps sometimes, to make the right decision and to trust in God, to trust him that you are doing the right thing. Honor your father and mother is the commandment of God. It's not a suggestion of God. God bless you all. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and I'll see you on Monday when I do the next teaching with you, also from the Gospel of John.